As I've thought about this message, and I've had it on the radar for a couple of weeks, I went back and tried to find a special pen that I had a couple of years ago. It was something I picked up on eBay at a great bargain. It was one of those really fancy pens with the little white flower symbol on the very top. I think if you're in France, you call it the Montblanc pen or something like that. I've wanted one all my life, was never willing to pay the $250 and on up price, but I found a great buy on eBay, picked it up for $45, got it. But in a few months, I noticed it started to chip off. Some of the finish started to chip off. And when I turned it to extend the ink, it kind of grinded a little bit. And the little thing that clips to your shirt, well, it didn't really stay on that well. So I decided I was going to take it to a pen store and have them repair it or replace it. So I took it in, and it was a nice store, really nice store, down near Inwood Lovers Lane. I think it's closed now. White shirt guy, pencil, tie, sort of a pseudo-French kind of feel to the place, and he looked at my pen and said, "It's a fake. It's a fake." And when he said that, the blood just drained from my face, because I realized I had paid $40 for this pen, $45 for this pen on eBay that I thought was worth hundreds. And all this time, I've been impressing myself with my designer pen. Well, you think about all the things that you can pick up at fake levels, like purses and wallets and watches and pens, but they don't really last. They look good for a moment. They create an image, a status point, but at the end, they essentially fall apart. And I'm here to say that to you because what we see today in this reading that I will get to in just a moment is Jesus is saying to us, and I want you to hear it clearly, and it's a hard message, but he is saying to us, look, there is nothing so fake as religion. There is nothing so insidious and pernicious as fake religion. There's really, when you read the Bible in the New Testament, you find that there's the story of Jesus that most of us know from Sunday school, where he was born and where he raised and started his ministry and the miracles that he did. Now he makes his way to Jerusalem. But you also know, if you've read any of the New Testament, that there's a subtext to it all. There's a group of complex religious people: Pharisees, Sadducees, Essenes, Zealots, Herodians, scribes, lawyers, teachers of the law, all this sort of complex group of people that are following him around like hungry paparazzi or frenzied media. And what they're looking for is for him to make a mistake. And they're looking for him to make a mistake big enough in what he does or what he teaches, they can actually turn him into Pilate and have him crucified. And of course, they are successful in doing this. But here we open this story in Mark chapter 7, where a group of people of this religious subtext have come up from Jerusalem to kind of get to spy on them. And they see him eating, and they're eating incorrectly. Mark chapter 7, verse 1. The Pharisees and some of the teachers of the law who had come from Jerusalem gathered around Jesus and saw some of his disciples eating food with hands that were unclean, that is, unwashed. They weren't unclean in the sense that they didn't wash before supper like your mother told you to, but they didn't clean their hands according to the custom and the ceremony that the Pharisees had set up in mind. And then we get this parenthetical statement here about the Pharisees. The Pharisees and all the Jews do not eat unless they give their hands a ceremonial washing, holding to the tradition of the elders. When they come from the marketplace, they do not eat unless they wash. They observe many other traditions, such as washing of cups, pitchers, and kettles. I mean, it's a very detailed description of the kind of level at which the law was being followed by the Pharisees. And of course, Jesus didn't do it. The minute they pin him with this, he calls them hypocrites. He says, look, in verse 7, he replied, Isaiah was right when he prophesied 700 years before, when he prophesied about you hypocrites. The Greek word is actor. He was right when he prophesied about you actors, people who wear the mask and put on the show of religion, but your hearts are broken and wrong with God. What did Isaiah say? These people honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. Their religion, the Pharisees' religion, was just like my fake pen. Look good, impressive, somewhat prideful, but at the end of the day, wrong and broken inside. I just want you to hold on to that thought and let me open it up in a bigger way. The whole Bible's about this. The whole Bible is about whether you and I are going to be real with God or not. It starts out in the garden where there's this deep communion between God and Adam and Eve. Sin enters, decisions are made, the fall happens. Adam and Eve, you know the story, they're ashamed of themselves. And what do? They make clothes to hide themselves, not from each other, but from God. It's the very first act of religion, these fig leaves. It's the very first thing that they do to kind of show that they are not who they really are. The very first act of fakery. Now, what's going on there? Jesus knows what's in your heart. And he says in Jeremiah, it says, the heart is deceitful above all things. And of course, the Pharisees, they want some explanation. Why do you use this statement against us? And what Jesus does is he says this amazing, he indicts them on this practice, which when you hear about it, it's going to make your stomach turn. What these people were doing is this. They were taking the money that they had, and they were giving it all to the temple treasury. And so any money that they could use to help support their family, their older members of their family, their parents, according to the fifth commandment, honor your father and mother, etc., they were broke then. So they would say to their mom and dad, hey, I gave at the office. I don't have anything more for you. Everything I have, I gave to the church, the temple treasury, and then they would take advantage of everything they'd given to the temple treasury. It was a way of faking everybody out, faking themselves to be good Pharisees, giving 100% at the temple treasury, giving lip service to the most important of human commandments, to honor your mother and father. And then Jesus says, and many other things you do this. I just want you to understand something about Jesus. He is provocative not because he does miracles. We love that miracle. And he's called the great physician not because he heals people only, the blind, the lame, the sick, the suffering. He is called the great healer, the great physician, because he can diagnose what's truly, truly wrong with us. And it has to do with our heart. Your heart. Mine. I mean, just think for a moment. Jeremiah says, the heart is deceitful above all else. Who could know it? You think about the things that you've imagined were right that weren't, and you did them. You think about the things that you knew were wrong, and you did them. You find yourself filled with the Spirit of God or feeling especially close to God in a season in your life, and yet there is an undercurrent of sin and brokenness within.
To make a monetary gift that supports the ministries of Christ Church Plano, visit christchurchplano.org.